Oh, there we are. What? Oh, sorry for about the delay, guys and gals. So what it is, Facebook is down, and I'm getting this error occurred, and I thought it was for both channels that I broadcast on at the same time, and it wasn't. So let's do this. So we're going to talk about the full toe, one of my latest builds, gap wedges, a grip tip, and some fitting stuff. So let's get started. Welcome to back. What's in my drawers golf talk? Jim McCleary here in Waverly, Ohio at McGolf. And it's what's in my drawers. And why is it what's in my drawers? Because old club makers, club fitters are tremendous pack rats, and I am no different. And it started out as a conversation about history and things that I had in the drawers in the golf shop. And it's kind of evolved into a discussion among friends, so to speak. So if you're new, welcome to the community. If you're back, thank you for coming back. And we'll talk about some of those things. So, number one, as always, we got to give a little bit of love to those who played and got paid. Hey, that's something new. Let's try that one. We're going to give a little love to who played and got paid. Sanderson Farms Championship. Mr. Sam Burns won, shooting a minus 22 overall, with Cameron Young and Nick Watney coming in second. So congratulations to them. And then you can't go anywhere without the Alfred Dunhill Links champion, and that would be Danny Willett. You probably haven't heard that name for a while. And then Joakim Lagergren, and Terrell Hatton. I know I butchered that name. I apologize. And then the ShopRite. Let's see who did the ShopRite. Celine Bautier and NB Park. So there you go. Congratulations to those guys and gals. And that's where that one goes. All right. So again, at this point, like, subscribe. That way you get more of this and you get to see other videos as they're coming out, right? And next Tuesday, tomorrow, is no different, okay? It's just no different. And we're going to talk about that guy, right? The full toe wedge. Full toe. I guess it's their idea is they didn't like the idea of calling it a high toe, and the Mickelson grind had wore its welcome out, I suppose. So they call it a full toe. So just a real quick introduction to it. It's like a marriage between the Mickelson grind and the Mac Daddy 5s. It's got a similar look, although if you really get close, the weight has moved around on the back, and that's for control. However, you now get lines across the face, and we talk about the face in the video, and a little bit more usability. Okay, definitely something to watch for. I'm not normally one of those guys that tests and put them in the bag. Ooh-wee. By the way, it's raining and thundering, so if I disappear, that's probably what it is. And then anyway, it's very useful because it has a not a significant, but it has a very nice heel and toe relief. And sporting the tour issue from Dynamic Gold, it works. Okay, it works. And because I am not that guy that puts it in the bag, other than the first one was the Epic Hybrid, I took this out and ran it through its paces, and honestly, it's a good club. Right, it's just a really good club. So if you're looking at a wedge and you can stand looking at a shape like that, certainly give it a try. All righty. So again, tomorrow, 7 a.m. in the morning, it's going to come out. All right. So let's do some pictures first before we do some other stuff. This was kind of cool. You guys are Wilson fans, old Wilson fans. This is the newest club that this golfer came in with a fitting. That one. Yeah, Wilson staff, but it's the bladed, well, kind of a blade. It's a blade here on the top, and then you get to see the small cavity. This thing was itty bitty, and that was the first one. And then he commences to showing me this one, the Wilson Staff Dynapower, a turf rider. The turf rider, and you can just see a glimpse of the red bore through right there, and that was a real one. That was back when the shafts were a little bit more narrow, and very 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 cool. And no, that's not fuzzy. That's just how used they are. And then the last one, this was a mixed bag. You can tell this is the 4-iron with the Wilson Staff logo up there on the toe, and you can see how look at the way that it was engraved. It was real nice and clean through the WILS, and then the ON just gets fat, then it gets fat again, then it gets small. I don't know if that was on purpose or not. Anyway, another Dynapower, certainly a muscle back from back in the day, right? So that guy, I thought certainly we're going to put this guy in a set of Wilsons because that's all he's played, and it's not for lack of trying. However, he had those clubs for nearly 15 years, so swings change, bodies change, gets bigger, stronger, that kind of stuff, and we end up putting him in some Mizunos. He needed a wider sole. The rest of it he hit just fine. He just needed a wider sole, so when he hit, his typical miss was a little heavy. And so we had to go with something a little bit wider. He hit the CBs pretty far, but the consistency just wasn't there, and that was because of turf interaction. Now we talked about it before. The D9 Fords that are coming out is a slightly narrower than the D7, but not by much. That probably would have worked really really well. Unfortunately, not there. All righty, so. The next build we've got going on is, and I like this set. This turned out really good. Is another set of the Mizuno Hot Metal Pros. We've been waiting on these guys for the better part of 6 weeks, and I got to help Mr. Mark. Sorry, buddy, but that's just what it was. And you can see it's the Pros, and then there's the gap wedge right there, and the gap wedge. It looks differently, but that's the way that they come, which leads me into the question of the gap wedge. Keep that in mind because you saw that one. Here's what we put on them. And I just put old school, man. And I tell you what, I was really surprised that they were a little bit firmer than what I expected them to be. The black ones that we've used in the past are extraordinarily soft. These guys were actually, and those are jumbos, those guys are really quite nice. So, and it was a very cool look. So all together, there they are. You notice the red labels, that's the Modus that was in there. All right, it looks like a lot like that. All right, the Modus shafts. I believe these are 120s. Anyway, the 120s, a little bit smoother, nice club. And they turned out very, very well. Very consistent, all right, very consistent. Now, as I normally don't do, but we've got a build that's, all I got to do is bend them and polish them, and they're going out. And this one is from, I'm going to guess his name, we're Sheo? Anyway, is it California? I think it's California. Anyway, we got a custom request for, and stay with me on this one. You see the Srixon ZX5, right? ZX5. And it turns into, and what I think is really neat, it is ZX7 combo set.
He's in the Navy.
Oh, he works with the Navy.
Yeah.
He works with the Navy, yeah. Works with the Navy, not in the Navy.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah. And so the 7s.
And it is California.
It is California. Ooh, for me. So a combo set. All right, combo set. And so went from the 5s to the 7s, which brings me into yet another gap wedge. This is a different looking one right here. All right, it's kind of nice. Very, very clean looking. Very nice. And again, it looks a little bit more. It looks a little bit more bladish, right? A little more bladish. So the real question here is, and I'll put it to you guys and we'll talk about it as we go through, gap wedges. All right. When we do fittings, gap wedges typically are a question mark for people because most golfers, when they hear the word wedge, are automatically looking for the sand wedge's brother. And I have to explain, and which I'm going to do here, the differences. Okay. And in a lot of cases, the gap wedge comes as part of the set. All right, you saw this one, these sets down in here and on the pictures, right? Those are very much wedge like, but they're not total wedged out. Particularly on the Mizuno, they have what's called it's the quad cut, and you see some, although a slight, but it's a slight cavity where the Srixon has a wedge look to it, right? A little deeper. And I believe that might be just traditional with the manufacturers. But in other cases, the gap wedge looks like a big brother to the pitching wedge. So how do you know which one to get, right? And therein lies the quandary. So what I tend to tell folks is, number one, I relate it to swing speed and the quality of the strike. Now, in a lot of cases, the pitching wedge and the gap wedge are going to be full swing clubs and finesse shots, half swing, quarter swing, that kind of thing. So because it's a full swing club, I say get as much forgiveness as you possibly can, even because you're going to get the same turf interaction, right? Because you're in that neck of the woods with the gap wedge. So in a lot of cases, a half swing might be a 100-yard shot. Some guys that are really stout, it might be a 125-yard shot. And even shorter, right? It can be 75 yards. Now, guys that are really, really strong or even really, really good may not like that, and they have to have a wedge. And what I explain to them is if they want it, fine, especially if they've got the skill sets for it. But keep in mind that a wedge, a standard wedge, like a sand wedge, lob wedge, that kind of thing, much like this last one I just showed you, is about like hitting a blade, right? And not very forgiving. And so if you get a little digger going or something along that lines, then it becomes a deterrent to good golf instead of good golf. And so you want to keep that in mind when selecting a gap wedge. Okay. So we got through that one. And the reason why I said a grip tip, I was putting these guys on. I think there is nothing wrong with a classic Tour Velvet, not one thing, until you put them on and this little piece here starts going, and it starts going back and forth, and you're like, well, what in the heck is that? Well, it's an air bubble, right? So an air bubble gets in them, and you're like, well, how does that go away? See, now this one actually had one in it. You see how it's not moving? This thing was spinning both ways. So how do you get rid of it, right? How do you get rid of an air bubble? Well, there's a couple ways. Number one, if you're really, really fast about it, I don't recommend it, but if you're really, really fast about it, pull it back off, stick it back on. You may just lose the trapped air. Maybe. That works if it's like right away. 9 times out of 10, you don't notice it until everything's starting to ooze out or whatever. And what you need is like an X-Acto knife type thing. So what I tend to use is the needle I have a needle gun that I stick to blow off grips, and that will do it. However, I was kind of stuck away from one, and your box cutting knives that have they're the trapezoidal type, not with the hook blade, although you could use the hook blade, and you just stick it in there and pull back out, and you'll hear it psss, and then it goes away, and that's what I did. So just a tiny sliver of a cut, and you're good to go. And then all of a sudden it'll dry up and you'll be good to go. Case in point, this guy. Okay. Whew. So we got all through that. We suffered through the internet, and of course, apparently Facebook's still down. So it's YouTube all the way, guys. And I think we got it all. Let's see. Yep. We got it all. So let's go to the questions. Questions. All right, here we go. Big Al played the weekend with my modified Tour AD shaft I repaired. If you remember a few weeks ago, he took a couple inches off and extended the butt. Finished second. Dude, well, we were talking about that, right? That you had a high enough swing speed that it very well may have worked. Good job. Well done. Stephen Pileski. How are you, Stephen? And getting ready for the long Canadian winter. Ugh. I was thinking of turning my garage into a sim bay. Looked at Mevo Plus and SkyTrack. What do you recommend? Well, let's start with this. I am neither sponsored by either company. I do use the Flight Scope, which is a Mevo product, so I'm way more familiar with that than the SkyTrack. That said, I've seen both what SkyTrack produces and Mevo Plus produces, and I would personally use the Mevo Plus. I like the way that it detects what you're doing, and I like that it sets itself up for a sim right out of the box. And the cost for either one of them is not out of pocket bad. And so Mevo Plus would be my pick. And it's only virtually, the thing's only this big, right? And you can't do, well, you're like, Jim, you got such a big head. What are you doing? The thing is about the size of, see my iPhone, right? It's just a hair, and this is the big one. It's just a hair bigger than that. Now the SkyTrack's a little bit more involved, a little bit bigger, a little bit more involved. All right. Matsky, what do you say, sir? No golf again. Uh-oh, the boys are going to be on you. All right, what is my favorite golf book? Hope all is well. Thank you, sir. Favorite golf book? Actually, I have two, and one of them is Tommy's Honor, and it's about old Tom Morris, young Tom Morris, and it takes you through the evolution of both old Tom Morris and young Tom Morris as professional golfers. Now, in the book, you don't get to see it in the movie so much. In the book, it takes you through some of the growth of some golf courses and some golf course management. It's in how they establish a superintendent and things like that. It's really informative. It is very, very informative. And then my other one is it's like a walk, something about a walk. I have to go back, but it's about not Oliver McKenzie, Alistair McKenzie, Scottish guy, and it takes him as he was a young boy and going to the university in Scotland, and was a pretty good golfer, but he was a very ingenious way of setting up businesses, and it takes him leaving Scotland, coming to the Americas, and setting up golf, and was instrumental in part of being the USGA, setting up tournaments and what they meant and that kind of stuff. Very, very good book. If I remember correctly, I'll go upstairs and get it. I'm a big golf history nut, so right now I'm in the middle of reading another one about old Tom Morris that I got when I was in Scotland. So it goes there. Dave, what's up? Hope's all well. Yep. Is there a standard for iron's head weight, or does it only matter that they're 7 grams apart? Well, if you were going to go with standard everything, like standard weight shaft, standard weight grip, standard weight head, as a whole, the norm was an iron that was a 5 iron that was around 256. Okay, 256 in grams, and then 7 gram increments from there. However, with the new lighter shafts and all these other things that are coming around, and the way that if you look, and we'll use Strixon again, but they're not the only ones. You notice how there's a whole lot going on right here? All right, so when you're doing swing weighting, that really pulls down. And they figured that out, right? And so now, at least from the Srixons and the Mizunos, a standard 5-iron is about 252, so it's about 4 grams light, and that seems to track. All right, it seems to track. Your more traditional irons like the Wilson CBs or the Tour issues or things like that nature will be slightly heavier. Duke, trying to get as much golf here in PA because, everywhere around here, dude, we're getting, I'm surrounded by a bunch of farms, and the Farmer's Almanac is calling for a pretty decent winter. So get it in, get it in. All right, let's see what Dave's got to say again. Dave, in your opinion, which is the best method for fitting lie angle on wedges? Face tape, lie board, Sharpie on the ball, or other? Thanks. Well, Dave, I'm totally old school, and I use electrical tape. In fact, it's right here. Electrical tape, and I put it on the bottom of the club, and I hit it off of a board. Now, they're like, "Oh, the board's an 1/8 inch off, and it's going to throw your lie angle off," and that's the only reason why you need to hit with the line on the ball, and that's the only way to go. Well, no, not at all. You also have to take into consideration how the ball is flying. All right, so your best bet and the ultimate best way to do this is if you had a piece of plywood, all right, a piece of plywood, and you had the golfers stand on that, and you can either do one of two things: put the tape on the bottom and just have them hit a ball right off the plywood, because that's impact, no elevation, right off the top, okay? Or you can paint it green. And then just let them hit off the bottom and see where the green mark goes. I would probably go for the later. Sometimes you do green just to make it look fancy, or you could paint it black and do the same thing. But if everything's level, there's no question. But what I have found is, because I have a softer stance mat, that it tends to work out. Buenos noches, Charles. There's a whole bunch of them out there. If it's the one, I'm just more about the one that has history involved and golf equipment. I mean, the one I really, from a history point of view, is a Robert Browning, and it's the history of golf equipment. That one's got a few actual generations of reprinting. Hey, before you were international YouTube superstar spreading the message. Oh, God, you're killing me. What did you find the most effective advertisement demonstrating your benefits from your business? Thanks. Well, that's actually not a bad question. There were, in the PCS, there was numerous discussions about how, and I think this is true for any business, of how to get the word out of your business being a mom and pop or a very small business. How do you maximize your marketing dollars, right? And marketing dollars, and you really had to figure out how you were going to focus those dollars into the people that would traditionally be your customers. Now, meaning that, you could get on. We did some radio advertising in the local area, and that casts a big net and sometimes really big squares in the net, and people would slide through because you would have to catch maybe a guy that was interested in golf at the right time. If you had it at the wrong time frame, you had to do that. Well, radio stations also know when they're the right age groups, the consumer groups, are getting on, so you can get a little bit more focused. I haven't done that in ages. The second thing that I thought was a little bit more beneficial was I used to write articles in the local newspaper about the benefits of golf equipment, golf fittings, that kind of thing. And that, like anything in marketing, the old adage was they have to hear your name 29 times before they recognize it. I used to get stopped in the parking lot, and they would, because your picture stood up next to the article, and guys would stop me. Says, "Oh yeah, I saw your article in the paper." I hadn't read an article in almost 2 months, and which was just a big light bulb moment for me. Now, so the idea is, where I would suggest wherever mode of media that's affordable, and maybe work out some way of doing an article of some variety or some level of advice where you come off as the expert. And then that way they go, "Oh, hey, look, that guy knows what he's doing." And they go that way. Now, there TV ads. I've watched guys do TV ads. If you're in a large area where there's a modicum of population, and they're actually watching TV, the TV ads during golf tournaments are an excellent way to do things. But it's a much higher investment. But I think the return is much better as well. But that's basically what we did. Another way, the last and final way, and I started it, but I can't tell you the results, is you start a website and start posting informational tidbits and customers' reviews of you, and see what happens there. Oh, by the way, I used to, when I was with the PCS, and we taught club fitting, and that was one of the chapters that we really dug into. Bassman Prime, enjoyed the video last week as always. You went off camera to reposition the ferrule. You drove on too far. I know how to correct that. What method do you use? You went off camera to reposition the ferrule. Oh, no, I didn't. So what he's talking about is I went off camera. There's two things that was going on. I was cleaning off the bottom, and then I was cleaning the ferrule. And what I do is I go off camera and I use a knife, and I use a box knife, and I kind of flick off the epoxy boogers, or to flick them off so that I don't scratch, and on the ferrule I'll get around so it's clean, so that when I totally finish it, that it's a clean look. On the bottom of the head, where that aluminum piece was, the glue and the graphite shaft and all that accumulates on the outside, and I basically scrape all the way around. So again, it's clean. I'm not trying to clean it off with the wheel, because I want to minimize as much time the wheel has on the club to prevent any imperfections. And in that particular one, it was a pretty nice club, so we really, really want to minimize our time. Hopefully that helps. There he is. Oh, dude, you're well, get better. All right, just get better. That's what we want to see out of you, Krister. When do the sim leagues start for you guys? You must be getting pretty close. Wired controller. Oh, look at that. The old Nintendo. Well done. Afternoon to you, sir. Or ma'am. Danny Johnson, Northeast Missouri. Nice. Northeast Missouri. I got a lot of the family down there by the Springfield area. In fact, my mom used to live in a place just outside of where the university is at, Elizabethtown. No, that was that's it. Stan from De Leon Springs near Daytona Beach. Digging the channel. Well, thank you, sir. Glad you're on. And near Daytona Beach. Nice. That's well done. All right. Loose ferrules creeping out of the shaft. What's the best way to reposition them, attach them to a McGolf standard? Okay. So if they're loose and you can move them, I just use fingertips, and what I'll do is I'll put a dab of epoxy on in between the ferrule and the hosel. So, man, we're getting all kinds of use out of the. Oh, I forgot to tell you about the shaft in this anyway. So I'll put a dab right in this neck of the woods, slide it in there, and whatever oozes out, I just wipe it down, and then I'll put a layer of tape on there so it doesn't move. Now, if it's really hard to move, where I have a clamp for when I do my grips, I will clamp here, and I will use this to push against because it's rubber and it doesn't scar, and I'll use it to push it down that way, and that because I can use this as a handle and push that way. All right, so there we got that one. So let's talk about the shaft. This one's a new one. Okay, this one's a new one. This one is, I don't know if you can tell because of the green background. Hallsville, that's Mom's area. Hallsville. This is a Nippon Neo 950 GH. You probably, let me see if there we go. See it down there? Neo 950 GH. All right, and the code is it's a 95 gram shaft. And it is. It came out very, very well. The shafts were very constant. Now, in a lot of cases in 95 gram shafts, they tend to air out the ball, right? It just hit the ball so high. Why is that? Well, it's because this section is very, very loose or very, very soft, and the midsection might be medium, and then the tip section might be, we'll call it firm, but not hard. And they already have one of those. Nippon, that's how they got their start, right? With a 950 GH, not the Neo 950 GH. KBS has got one. Good shaft, does the same thing. As of late, the Elevate shaft that you see in a lot of True Temper in the 95 gram, very nice, right? It's a little more penetrating ball flight for 95. And that's what this guy does, right? I think this one, I haven't done a true-on comparison per se, but I would think that the Neo is probably just about this much softer, not too much, but that much softer. So if you're looking for a lower flighted type, more later release type, lightweight type shaft, that's something to consider. Also, the other one, right? All right. Let's keep going. There's Jared. How are you, sir? Jared he's up the road. He has left Canada, and because he has found a wife, and like most things, he's down here. Good guy. So if you're in Ohio and you know somebody looking for somebody that's good that's educated in the ways of machinists and mold making, he's your man. All right. Kurt Evans, how are you, sir? That's a good name. Haven't seen that one for a while. Yeah, I tell you what, it's hard to put some of those up. The classicness of them is just crazy how they can stand out. Ah, got it. Very good. Eric Westerheim. How are you, sir? Man, we got a lot of new names on here. Welcome, guys. I'm glad everybody's in. If you got any questions, throw them down in there. They're even muggy and soggy. Yeah, we're seeing it now too, bud. We are seeing it now. I mean, I'd love to show you, but it stopped raining, but it is gray. Oh, it's gray. And it was coming down. It's the strangest thing here in Ohio. I've never seen it where you can just see the rain moving in a sheet, and it just comes and it gets you. You can, on our range, we see it coming from this way, and we can see it coming. We know exactly when it's going to hit the house. Never seen anything like that. Normally it just shows up and it just gets you wet. Mr. Jeff Carpenter. Hi from Chicago. Just a quick question. What's your opinion on Edel putters? Are they worth it? So Edel putters are very nice. Edel himself takes great care in making those things. The most important part of that putter is going through the fitting. His fitting process is pretty good. All right, and I I always relate it to if you ever watched Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and where the dad goes to the local fair and he's got the haircut machine and he pedals the bike, and the way that looks just absolutely reminds me of the way that this putter fitter thing shows up, because it's on a bike, right? It's got like a bike. It's got a bicycle seat on it, and you spread it out into a tripod, and it's got a bicycle seat. And these things open up, and there's all these heads, all these necks, all these shafts, all these grips, and you basically build a putter. And after the putter guy puts you through your paces and says, okay, this is where it works, and he starts tweaking, so you get down to the right head, then down to the right neck, then down to the right shaft, then down to the right grip. So you're zeroed in, right? You are absolutely zeroed in, and then you get the putter. If you're just buying an Adele putter just for the sake of buying one, then no. But if you go through the fitting process, it is truly a weapon. The Srixon gap wedge looks like the MG2 wedge. MG2. We talking about the McGregors? I don't know. Let's see. Let me pull that out. MG2. MG2. I don't know what the MG2 is. There we go. Let's see. You got to see the shiny, then the satiny, and then the shiny again. It's a neat little wedge. The sole on it's very unique with the groove down the middle. I do like that. Stan, both with Talmor Dew. There we go, sir. This is McCallum 12. I'm doing okay today. Mrs. McGolf hooked me right up. All right, here we go. Wired controller. Just recently got fit for T100's Bavoki gap wedge because I use it for very long bunker shots, my home course. Well, there you go. That could be a reason, right? In that particular, if you're using it for longer bunker shots and you find yourself in there and that gets you out, and that's most of your play, then fine, right? Then that's fine. I would, if from a longer point of view, if you're using that, unless you've got a gap wedge with a ton of bounce hitting out of the sand, you'd look at I could argue the other point as well. But if it works, it works. And the T100s are really nice. And what's wrong with a Vokey, right? Although I'm not a Titleist guy, how are you going to argue that? You just don't. It's a nice club. And what do you know about Geotech Golf? Is there a European company that sells these irons? I saw someone sold a set on Facebook before it went boom. Yeah, I Googled the name. Krister, over here, Geotech Golf does not carry the same weight as it does in Europe. Geotech over here is at best, and Geotech comes from golf shafts from over here that I'm aware of, right? And at best, they're okay. At best, they're okay. I have not seen any of the Geotech irons per se or any of that stuff. I just haven't, and so they don't carry the same weight. And I really have to attribute that in the same method as Dunlop, right? Over here, Dunlop is a grocery store golf bag, right? It is one that I call it golf in a box, where it all comes together in a box, ready to rock and roll, and it's for a guy just getting started, guy or gal. And they very well may not be that good. Whereas in Europe, they carry quite a significant presence as far as being known as a better golf club. And that's just not the same. And I think that's probably what we're seeing here. In some, the 223 I know does. I don't think the 221 does, and maybe on the 225. I like the 221's the blade, the 223 is their player's cavity back, and the 225 is we'll call it the the new HMB. And I'm pretty sure it does. Hold on. I'll be able to tell you. I have an old product guide. Let's find out. Let's see. It's like I wish I had the Jeopardy background music. Ding, 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 ding. Ding, 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 ding. Do, 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 do. All right, there's the MP20. Ding, 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 ding. There's that one. And none of them had a gap wedge, so maybe just the one. And in matter of fact, they did show it to me. So there's a gap wedge in the 223, but I don't think the other ones. Dennis Hood, hello, sir. How are you? Man, we're seeing all kinds of names. Well done, guys. Thank you for checking in. Found the Geotech GTI 817, something I could play. It's something I could play. I like the looks of them. Well, you're going to have to send me a picture, man, because I really don't see them, right? I just don't get to see them. All right, let's see. Whoop, 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 whoop. Got a little too far. Boy, I didn't think. Look at all of this. Well done, fellas and ladies. Danny Freeman, what'd we shoot, buddy? 76. Nice. Still had a few of those 2-foot par misses on the putter. I think I need to go to practice. I tell you, I'm on, dude. Me and you need whenever. Let's find a putter guy and just go visit that guy. Well done, 76. That's not a joke, man. Not a joke whatsoever. Well done. Okay, just watch that bakery. Oh my God. That a guy would call me Skinny Jim, huh? Ooh wee, that's saying something, man. That's saying something. Is he a Cajun? You can get some of those guys on there making some good food. Ooh. Crusher 74, Matt or Steven says check out the new Garmin. I saw was it the Garmin, and it was the Garmin and the Foresight. And you're seeing a lot of press. I think the YouTube clans like it, but I have yet to see it. It hasn't made it down this neck of the woods. All right, let's see. What is the best way to build a tee box for an indoor range? Danny, if you're talking about real dirt, I don't think there really is, because you're indoors and you need UV and all kinds of other stuff. But if you're looking for an actual mat kind of thing, a mat setup, my favorite's the Fiberbuilt. Okay, a Fiberbuilt, and they have a rubber underlisting or a rubber base for which to hold a stance mat, and then holding a hitting area. And the hitting area is not the stance mat like you would see at a normal driving range. The hitting area is about that deep, all right, and it's thick. So you can hit one deep. You can get into it, and it won't give you a false positive. In fact, it'll grab your club. That's number one. The durability on that thing is out of sight. It is just they did a commercial where they welded an iron to a 350 motor and just let it run, and it took a couple million shots before they had to change it over. So yeah, it's a good thing. Now the stance mat comes in two varieties. One that I would tend to use outdoors, which I do out here, and then what they call the country club mat, and it's in here. It's a little softer and more ground-like feeling, I guess, is the way to go with it. And if you were looking just for you, then you could get just the mat with the stance mat, or the underlisting, the stance mat, and then the hitting area. If you were looking for a lefty and righty and you were looking to save space, they have a model that has the hitting area in the middle and stance mats on both sides. That's what that's what I use here. And then you can put your launch monitor behind it and one side. That's one way of doing it. If you don't care which side it's on, they make one where you have the stance mat in the middle and the hitting area is on the outside. That's also another way to go. But check out Fiberbuilt. Very, very durable, very, very comfortable, and you don't get all those joint issues when you hit. Tobester McDonkey. Okay. I hit the driver pretty solid at the range. When I get the tee box, it goes bad pretty often. Stage fright. Well, so it's not necessarily what you would call stage fright, but there is something to be said about that. So number one, let's do this. Number one, if you hit the driver first and you finish hitting wedges and then you go to the tee box, that's on you. Okay, that's on you because I'll tell you, the pros start with lower clubs, wedges, putter wedges, low irons, mid irons, and work their way up to the driver because the very first tee box is the driver. So they have that same feeling from the tee to the green. Okay, that when people do it backwards, and a lot of people do, you lose the feeling for the driver because you've just hit a series of wedges and it doesn't feel the same. So because especially if you just absolutely just nut one down the middle of the fairway, that you take that confidence to the tee box and away you go. That's the first one. And then stage fright, there is something to that. So when people get the driver in their hand, they feel like they've just got to hit it really, really far because, well, it's a driver. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. You know, you're the engine, the shaft's the transmission, and the head's the rubber where it meets the road on the golf ball. And if you swing normal or relax, take a deep breath, relax, and just swing through it, you'll find that you hit it further, straighter, and better because relaxed muscles move faster. It doesn't feel strong, but it is strong, and that's what you can work out. There, you've been using the Mevo Plus in the garage for a while, and it works great. You won't be disappointed. Well, there's a +1 for the Mevo. Danny, you're having trouble hitting your epic speed. Just hope it takes a little getting used to. Well, what's the deal? Why? Oh, why? You just tell me you shot a 76? Or was that somebody else? Oh, no. Oh, Danny Freeman. That was what it was. Danny shot a 76. Danny Johnson is having trouble with epic speed. So, Danny, in most cases, in this particular issue, in most cases, the Epic, doesn't matter, the Epic, the Mizuno, the TaylorMade, the Titleist, blah, 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 they're all too long. Okay, they're all too long. I would suggest choking down somewhere between 3/4 of an inch to an inch and giving it a ride and see what happens. And not just one time, 3 or 4 times. If you're willing to get used to it, try that first and then see. Russell, it's been a while, sir. What's going on? Aloha to you, too. Better deal, GC3 or the Bushnell's Pro launch? So I read the article on that, right? The GC3 has got a little bit more bell and whistle, where the Bushnell is more subscription-based. I do not, it's going to sound stupid, but I do not subscribe to subscription-based stuff. I don't like it. And that's just me because I'm old and I have gray hair. I like being able to buy a product and I've bought it and somebody's going to get behind it and do their thing. I don't want to have to keep paying somebody month in and month out, month in and month out to have that because to get, the funny part is they're virtually the same machine. It's just how much of the machine you want to be able to use. That's what it comes down to. If you're wanting a minimalist type setup, then maybe the Bushnell is the way to go. But most people don't do that. They go, oh, wow, I'd really like to have all these other bells and whistles. And next thing you know, they could have bought the thing after a few months. That's just me. And again, GC3 versus the quad, that's a whole nother story. But for you're just inside, I would just personally, I like the 3. All righty. Jared Walters, how are you? Jared Walters. Can adjust woods on woods and drivers. The best answer for golf questions is it depends. And that's exactly what the answer is here. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And if it's an adjustable driver, no. If it's a bonded driver, maybe. And it depends quite a lot on the length of the hosel. You have some shorter hosel clubs? No. Longer ones? Probably. And then from there, it's the construction. If you have something that's purely a graphite top or a composite top and it's all the way to the front, you run the risk of cracking. You have to be very, 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 very gentle. But if you know the manufacturing where maybe the lip or the face does like that, and this is all steel or titanium, then yeah, you probably get away with it. And in any case, no more than 1 or 2 degrees either. So you're not going to go from like 62 to 59 or anything like that, but you can do the other stuff. Stan picked up a full set of Daiwas. There's another one, right? The Daiwas. Leather bag, oversized senior shifts. Good one. There you go. Those Daiwas, man. I tell you, sometimes you can get away with it. Joshua, Texas. Well, you ought to be in pretty good weather right now, shouldn't you, Scrunchy? Didn't see any weather. You're in the nicer part of the time frame. I mean, you should have a good one. John M. Blake, how are you, sir? Glad to see you could make it on here too. Another one. Yeah, that was what we were just talking about, that GC3 or the Bushnell. And and I think a lot of it, that cost is additive in the Bushnell, where the GC is just a one-time purchase. But yeah, and they're both virtually the same, right? They're both virtually the same. It's just how much you want to pay up front. The greatest, I've got that one too, Charles. The greatest game ever played. I've got that one and I read it, and it is a very good one as well. Great golf book. If those are the types of books I tend to gravitate towards. I can say, let me think about this for a moment. I can say beyond a shadow of a doubt, I don't have the first golf instruction book in my collection. Now, I do have some stuff on swings, right? I do have some stuff on swings where it's science-based. And a guy from England talks about really using ground power and doesn't talk about, he just basics and that kind of stuff, but nothing like oh no, I lied. I do have one. David Ledbetter. I have a David Ledbetter book, and that was when he had those 11-point swings. Sorry, I got a David Ledbetter book. So, but the rest of them, I mean, I've got the big book of all the antique clubs. It's just huge. It's about that thick. I got 2 of those. All the history of all the golf clubs. I got all those. I'm working on a couple. There's still a couple out there. The World Congress of Golf. If you're a tremendous golf nerd and you want to know about the science of the game, I mean the true science of the game, World Congress of Golf. You want to get enlightened about the reality without any, sponsorship or that kind of stuff. There's doctors of mechanical engineering and kinesiology and just the way things work and how it talks about environmentally being conscious and 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 what ground forces do when you swing, and the dimples on a golf ball, and it just goes through the whole thing. I've got 3 of those, and there's a few more. The price tag on the last 2 are a little bit prohibitive right yet, but I'm still waiting. But there's a lot of smart people, a lot of smart people. Near Myrtle Beach, John. I'm totally jealous. We were just down there too. Retired 43. Oh, I like the mask. You're missing the canister, but hey, that's a cool mask. I like it. What grip would you put on a set of 1960 Sam Snead clubs? Thanks, Jim. You know what? I would probably put on if you go to Golf Pride, they had some anniversary edition victory grips. All right, they're the green lines with the arrow on the top, and that's what they used in the period. And I would go with that and put those on there. If not, there goes a thing. If not, I would the next thing, just to kind of stay close to the period, is they had the next thing that took its place was the Golf Pride wrapped grip. Not the 2G, but the wrap. So the closest you're going to get is a 2G. And that would probably do it as well, just to kind of give it that same vibe, right? But I would start looking for the anniversary victory grips. They are cool, by the way. Stefan, what's going on? I haven't seen you for a while. So you got a 58-degree wedge head, 350 grams. Yep, that's about right. With a DG wedge shaft at 35 and a quarter, and it's coming in at D8. Any ideas on shaft ways to bring this swing weight down? I don't really want to drill the head counterbalance. All right, so the 58, okay, so let's work this out. So if a standard length is 38, so 37 and a half for the 6, 37 for the 7, right? 36 and a half for the 8, 36 for the 9, 35 and a half for the pitching wedge. All right, for the pitching wedge, and then it's a 1/4 inch down from there. So 1/4 inch for the pitch, 1/4 inch for the gap, for the gap, 1/4 inch for the sand, 1/4 inch for the other one. So you're about an inch over standard. And at D4 being the normal, that's probably not too far off. So if you really, 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 really like that, right, if you really like that length, I would try choking down first, and then when you do, just cut off a little bit of it and put a new grip on it. The other way, without having to go too difficult, honestly, is back weight it. All right, I'm not a fan in a lot of cases, but if you really want the swing weight to come down, you back weight it and you put it in your hands, right? And then you put they got a little plastic insert, and then you can put lead weights in there and glue them in, and then put your grip on, away you go. And that would take it down as well. But that's the reason why. The other part is that you could probably, and it depends on the wedge shaft too. If you're using a 125, 130 wedge shaft, you might get away with like maybe a 115, right? A 115 wedge shaft, and it'll probably come down then. All right. Yeah. We've changed a little bit since you've been here, Stefan. We've gotten lights. We're fancy now. You know, next week it might be blue or red or whatever. I started trying to do a little bit better with lighting, and this is shadowing right here, and whatever. You know, if we're talking golf and having a good time, I don't think it matters, but I think it's fun. And that started too. We can thank Charles for that one. All right. How much does lie angle change from hitting off mats? If you're talking about mats to hitting off of the ground, I'm going to have to say none. The way that you interact with the turf is the way that you interact with the turf. Now, if you're hitting on so here's the thing. If you're hitting off of one of those really low profile mats and it's sitting on like a piece of cement, you're going to get what's called a false positive. You're going to hit and bounce, and it's going to make the club come down, and it's going to make it go straighter. Where when you get into the ground, you're going to get into some turf interaction where the ground actually resists you a little bit instead of just lets you slide through. There's where you're going to get into some issues. And that's, again, going back to the fiber built. That's the reason why I like the fiber built, because it's this thick and it allows turf interaction to occur. So if you get into the heel or get into the toe, it will grab it. And you can see it in a lot of cases. It's really kind of neat. But as far as just line angle change, probably not a whole lot. It's just how you interact with the turf and the type of it. Krister, indoor season has begun. Where I live, the outdoor season ends in mid-October if the weather is good, but for me, there's been a lot of rain. Well, you've been fighting a lot of cold and injuries too, right? So yours kind of started and stopped, kind of stutter-stepped this whole last end. Todd Reinhardt, how are you, sir? And a Braves fan. And I'm digging on the logo. To hell with the rest of those guys, what they think. Is the TaylorMade M2 from 2016 a still good driver versus the Sim 2? Again, Todd, like most things, it depends. The answer is, if you're hitting it well, the answer is yes. It is just as good. The M2 from the 216, so let's go back and I'll speak English. The M2 from that particular era was probably their better model, in my opinion, than the ones that followed it. Okay. I've seen guys come in with older models and come in with the newer ones and just have this dumbfounded look of why they can't hit it. I don't know what they did in it, but it wasn't as good. Now, the Sim 2 is getting a truckload of love. All right, just a whole bunch, and they very, very much like it. And you're talking about 5 years of technology leap, and that's like 5 years in driver legs, like dog years. It's like another 5 in that, because the technology in drivers leaps very, very quickly. Now, the real trick is to know the technology leap that they placed in there, if it's good for you. All right. Pardon me. I still have guys bringing in TaylorMade R580s and just spanking it. All right. And that was their tall face driver. If you remember, it was very, very tall. The head was very, very small. And a lot of people gravitated towards that, and they're still hitting it well. And it's very, very hard to knock it out of the bag. And they're finding the middle of the face and just fits them until the next tall driver comes out. And then it'll just whip it like a red-headed stepchild. So you need to keep that in mind. The other thing you can do, Todd, if you're up there in the Cleveland area, I know that they've got a couple of decent stores up there. Just go grab one and give it a ride in the booth and see what happens. Floyd Burgess. Dude, we are seeing all kinds of folks show up. Nice. That is so cool. Floyd Burgess from Spring, Texas. Just wanted to see what your opinion on the Cleveland HB turbo launchers. Turbo. I just bought a set and like them. They're very easy to hit. And they are, Floyd. They're very, very easy to hit. And that's the whole idea of those things. They have a not a super wide, but a wider sole, a little bit of offset. And with the way they're kind of like a hybrid iron, and they pull the center of gravity back so it's easier to get the ball up in the air. And honestly, they're just stupid easy to hit. They really, really are. And the only other club that comes close is the Wilson launch pads. They're very, very close. They've taken it to a whole nother extreme. Their top end stuff is super wide, and the bottom end stuff is a little more narrow and acceptable. But yeah, they're nice clubs. If you have issues with getting the ball in the air, you just pick the right one. Bryson, he makes noise wherever he goes, right? And that's the cool part about him. What, love, hate him or whatever, you got to admire. he's like one of the first guys to get out of the PGA box and go hit it, and he was serious about it. He finished? I think he finished number 7, right? And the dude hit one 412? 412 in competition, and if he would have hit that in the end, he actually would have moved on again. So I don't know if he would have gotten much further than that because there's some pretty big numbers being posted. But yeah, you gotta like it. And and those guys were just looking at him, going, "Man, this guy's for real." But you got to watch those guys. Watch them hit, man. It's just swinging sideways and out and all kinds of stuff in order to get that extra speed going. But it's fun to watch. I mean, it really is. It's fun to watch. Who doesn't like seeing somebody hit one 400 yards down the groove? Now, if you're getting paid to play and you're millions of dollars on the line, chances are that's not happening, just because of the variables that you put into it. But for that, heck yeah, cut it loose and let's see what's going on. Sonny V, what's going on, sir? In the middle of reshafting a set of Ping I-200s. Nice. They were reshafted by someone else. One head came off, another one spun on the shaft. Almost took no heat to pull the head. Ooh, no good. No good. Now, the other thing about those, Sonny, is the watch for the ferrule, because they take a centering ferrule on there, and you really want to make note of that. A standard ferrule will wobble. You get the regular ones that go in there deep because those I-200s have a really deep shoulder, and that's what keeps them solid. And if they didn't do that, that's probably why. Art and Mimi James, thank you. Here's some more, man. We got this world record of new folks. Nice. Does changing the rear weight on the driver make a difference? Yeah. So on the driver, well, we use my iPad, my iPhone. No, let's use we got to use something that's 3-dimensional. So we'll use my cup. There. So this is a driver. This is the face, and this is the back end. And typically what you have is you might have a weight here and a weight here. And you very well may have just one weight and just one weight. So this is the weight that adjusts center of gravity. So the further the center of gravity gets pulled back, the more it wants to act like it's doing that, although it's like this. So the further you pull back the center of gravity, the higher it wants to launch. The lower you put less weight and it tends to move forward and you get a little bit more penetrating. Now, I'm not talking like you just turned a 10.5 degree into an 8.5 degree club by changing a weight. Not at all. But you can change the way that it looks, that it comes off the club, maybe even reduce a little spin. Camilio, there you are, sir. There you go, Todd. Man, we're in there. We're almost to the bottom, aren't we? I'm getting the signal, guys. We're right back. She's back 1 week, and we're right there. We're getting this already. All righty. How does the hot metal compare to the HM Pro? HM Pro, Hot Metal Pro, Hot Metal Pro. How would one play different than the other? Okay, so we've got to make a significant notice here. The hot metal is a very strong lofted, has a lot of offset, larger club. The Hot Metal Pro is kind of the same size, very similar to the same size, has a smaller sole section, it has a lot less offset with the same loft. All right, so in the thing where we call the distance, or the distance, not the distance, talk about a brain failure. It's the new category. Basically, it's a low offsetted, stronger lofted club for better players. That's what the Hot Metal Pro is. Okay. And that's the difference. So same size at address. The top line is just a hair smaller. The sole is significantly smaller. although it's still pretty wide. So if your miss is a fat, or behind the ball, you will still like it. Just has less offset. When am I supposed to get the 9s? I believe our rep told us sometime January, February time frame. I ordered them as soon as I possibly can so I could get them as soon as I possibly can. We will certainly see them in January to be sure. When they become available, it's probably shortly thereafter. Oh, look at that. She says January. All righty. Whoop, 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 whoop. Man, we got some more. I got to keep going here, guys. Mr. Boffman. All right. Suggestion for suggestion for sand wedge and lob wedge shaft using the Oban CT 125 Myers, looking for something similar but more weight. Wow, Oban. Man, you're hitting a good one there, bud. Honestly, the one that comes to mind directly is the Acura Wedge 130. Right, they have a 130 weight, and it'll be very, very, very similar, right? So just slightly heavier, just ever so slightly heavier, wedge shaft specific, and it's about what you're looking for. So yeah, there you go. Mr. Kent, there you are, buddy. I was wondering if you're going to make it in. Checking in from an overnight vacation in Blackpool. Rain, ugh. There you go. Well done. Glad you guys are enjoying it out there. What is for 2000, Jim? No doubt. Oh, here we go. Adrian, how are you, sir? Canberra, Australia. Whoo! Spring getting here slowly. I got to get used to that other side of the world thing. That's very, very cool. And thank you, Adrian. Thank you for joining us. I think this is just super. It is super cool that we got all these people on here. Can you recommend any Ford zero offset irons? If there are any, I have come to unlike my Mizunos because of the zero offset forged irons. Zero offset normally is relegated for blades. The next one up would be, they have the next ones come over the 223s and Mizunos. The Tours, the JPX Tours have very, very little offset with it still being a cavity back. The CBs and Wilson are a cavity back. Players like cavity back, and it has almost none. Give me a minute here, I'll tell you. The Srixon 7s are close, but they still have a little bit. I'm trying, dude. I'm trying. The new forged, that Tech Club from Callaway probably has zero. I'm trying to get you away from the blades, but into the next one. Whatever you find in the blade, the next one up is probably where you need to be. All righty. Nice. Well done, Stan. There we go. There we go. We're getting close. Here we go. Dennis Hood played with the new Pure DTX combo grips and irons. I found that I had to lighten, loosen grip pressure, get good results. Well, the Pure DTX combo, man, that's like grabbing a truck tire in one hand and the other one. I was really kind of wondering about those. I'm glad you said something. I do like the combo grips, and the DTX is a little too rough for my standards, but in a half swing, yeah, I could probably deal with it. Great fits. There you go. All righty. How golf clubs work can affect your ability to score golf multi is good. Understand? Yes, yes, they are. I've got the club making Bible from him, and any other thing he's put out, plus his last book. The last two books before that I read was one from Ralph Maltby, and it was basically his progression through the golf industry. That was really a good read. And then Tom Washon put one out. It was called Captain Clubmaker, and that was a really good read too. You want to talk about some? That dude knows how to write. He's really good. There we go. Thank you, sir. He was nice to hit. Or nice to watch. Those two guys are just crazy.
What are you doing?
I know. One more. Here we go. Sunny VS. My boys are up here at Golf Works and had the ping Farrell. All is good to go. Nice. Well done. And I did make it to the bottom, even right there. Charles, what do you say? Players distance irons. That's the ones. That's the word I was trying to get to. Thank goodness. All right, we went a little long, but it was fun because we had way more new people out there. Thank you so very much for watching, and all the way out to Australia, across the world, Canada. It was very nice. Again, guys, I appreciate the effort. Tomorrow, remember, I put out the review on the full toe tomorrow, and see what you think. I just give it a thumbs up right off the top. And as always, guys, let's see your scores. Let's start that over. Let's see your scores. Go low.